Michel Fourniret, the Beast of the Ardennes, was also known as the Virgin Hunter. His wife, Monique Olivier, admitted to assisting Michel in hunting virgins for fun. He regarded it as a sport. In exchange, he agreed to kill her first husband, which eventually never took place. Kidnapping young women and girls he presumed to be virgins was his modus operandi. He was obsessed with virginity, and he would call virgins membranes on legs. But Michel struggled with impotence, therefore Olivier would give him fellatio before he raped his victims. The Belgian public prosecutor provided a disturbing report on Olivier's claims against Michel. He would tell his wife, "I'm going out hunting, and you know exactly what that means." Then he would come home with a girl, hold her for 2 or 3 days, rape her, and then kill her. In May of 2004, when Belgian authorities closed the Marc Dutroux pedophile murder investigation, a new case garnered international attention. Belgian investigators say 62-year-old French forest ranger and renowned pedophile Michel confessed to murdering 6 people. He confessed when his wife, 56-year-old Monique, denounced him to the police for 9 murders in France and Belgium. Monique came out after seeing Marc's widow jailed for 30 years for covering up her murderous husband's actions. At that time, Michel was arrested for trying to kidnap 13-year-old Marie Ascension. On May 26, 2003, Marie Ascension was kidnapped in Signy, Belgium, on her way to school. Luckily, she managed to escape and provide the authorities with a detailed description of Michel, his van, and the license plate number. After his arrest and the claims made by his wife, he admitted to murdering several people, including Elisabeth Brichet, 12, Natasha Donnet, 13, Isabelle Levy, 17, Jean-Marie Desremaux, 19, Fabien Leroy, 20, and Farida Amish, 30. 2 months later, he also admitted to killing Céline Cazot, 18, and Menania Tumpon, 13, who both disappeared in the French Ardennes in May of 2000 and 2001. Olivier claims that her husband also murdered the previous couple's au pair, a 16-year-old Belgian girl with no name. She said that she came to find her husband and the babysitter naked, and he strangled her to silence her. Michel denied it, but said he did rob and shoot an anonymous man at a French highway rest stop. 9 victims were confirmed after his confessions. Nevertheless, police believe he committed other murders in Belgium, France, and other European countries. Despite knowing about the crimes, Olivier told investigators that she was not participating. When her husband said he went hunting, she knew that he was after more victims. He drove about looking for girls. He would lure a vulnerable woman or girl into his automobile, rape her, and then murder her. Olivier said she was not involved in the kidnappings and murders, but officials know that she was. She and her baby son were often used as bait to reassure victims, since a woman and her baby would not raise any suspicion. Michel would then order Olivier to watch the assault and then help him kill and bury the girls. She was arrested for abduction and failing to aid the victims. He confessed to murdering women and girls between 1987 and 1990, but denied killing anybody between 1990 and 2000. He claimed that he murdered 2 victims every year for 5 years. His narrative suggests 10 victims, 1 more than he confessed to. Police believe he actually killed 2 women annually for 15 years, totaling approximately 30. Some say it's likely that he killed 40 or more women, although the exact number remains unclear. Michel specifically targeted virgins. He'd dig a 3-meter grave before hunting, since he knew he'd be bringing back a woman or a girl. After being freed from prison in 1986, Michel bought a large plot of land that housed an 18th century castle in the French Ardennes. The land was bought using money he stole from one of his victims. In prison, he had befriended a man named Pierre, who was a member of Action Directe, a far-left militant group that bombed France in the 1980s. Michel learned that Pierre's wife, Frida, knew where the group's concealed war chest, consisting of gold bars and gold coins, was located. When Michel was released from prison, Pierre ordered Frida to meet up with Michel and ask him to help her dig up the gold that was buried in a cemetery. When they finally dug up the gold, she offered Michel 500,000 francs for helping her dig it up and hiding it in her apartment. A few days later, Michel and Olivier lured Frida out of her home and strangled her. Afterward, they took the gold from her apartment and moved to the Ardennes, where they bought the chateau. Until today, the body of Frida has never been found. After his 2004 confession, Michel and his wife led police on a search of their estate in the Ardennes to help find the remains of some of their victims. There, they led police to two burial sites, those of 12-year-old Elizabeth and French student Jean-Marie. Both girls had vanished in 1989. Michel showed no emotion when some of the preserved remains were found during the disinterment. Michel also acknowledged throwing the body of 17-year-old Isabelle in a well near Auxerre in France. Her remains were found in 2006. In December of 1987, Michel and Olivier drove in separate cars to Auxerre. Olivier stopped to ask 17-year-old Isabelle, whom they had seen a day or two before and were targeting, to join her in the car and give her directions. She accepted, and while driving down the road, Olivier came to the point where Michel was standing with his car, claiming that it had broken down. After Olivier feigned to offer him a lift, he got into her car. Michel suffocated Isabelle with a piece of rope before administering Rohypnol. The pair took the girl to their house, where Michel raped and later strangled her. Olivier informed investigators that the couple's former au pair's body was in the yard of their former home in southern Belgium near the French border. After searching the pointed-out location, no remains were located. Although frustrated, investigators said that they would continue searching for the girl's remains if they knew more about her whereabouts. If found, this girl would bring Michel's total victims to 10. Ultimately, he wasn't released by Belgium until they interviewed him about the deaths in their area. French officials had to visit the jail in Nivelles, Belgium to interview the beast of the Ardennes. One case police wanted Michel to discuss was the 14-year-old murder of Joanna Parrish. Unemployed garbage collector Patrice Bardot drove from Moneto, France to the Yonne River for a day of fishing on May 17, 1990. Soon after arriving, he saw something floating in the water. He believed that it was a bobbing barrel, but as he approached, he saw a naked body. He swiftly stopped a nearby runner to report the gruesome discovery. Police were summoned when the jogger ran to a cafe. The officials arrived swiftly and conducted a catastrophic investigation. The police only searched a limited area near the corpse for evidence. However, investigators ignored much of the surrounding ground, which police, rescue personnel, bystanders, and cars had all trampled. The secured area was reopened to the public a few hours later, and a large group of children on a field trip trashed it even more the next day. Pollution at the crime scene likely destroyed any further evidence. The body was taken from the river and taken to a nearby hospital for identification and an autopsy. The body turned out to be that of 20-year-old Joanna Parrish from Gloucester, England. Joanna joined Leeds University's Modern Language Work-Study program and became an assistant English teacher at an Auxerre secondary school. She studied modern language at Leeds University for her bachelor's. Tragically, she died less than a week before concluding her posting. An autopsy revealed that she had been drugged, bound, beaten, and strangled before being dumped in the river. The body had been tossed in broad daylight, but police were unable to find any witnesses. It was believed that she'd been in the water for a few hours when she was found. Authorities believe that her murderer knew the area and may have lived nearby, but no suspects were ever found. Her Canadian friend Janet visited before she died. Joanna promoted English courses in a local newspaper, Janet said. The money earned would fund a getaway with her fiancé. Following Joanna's post, a local man contacted her to hire her to teach his teenage son, investigators said. They agreed to meet at 7 p.m. at the town square on May 6, 1990. Janet followed Joanna into town that day and walked around before parting ways. Around 6:30 p.m., Joanna reached the town plaza to meet the man who contacted her. Janet never saw her again. Joanna had also never told her the name of the man she was meeting. Joanna was buried 2 weeks after her body was found. Roger and Pauline Parrish, her parents, flew to the city and hired a lawyer to get case information from the magistrate and police. They believed their daughter's killer would be arrested if they diligently monitored the case. Their expectations were soon shattered by the inadequate way the case was being handled. Roger and Pauline had no idea their daughter's death was not an isolated case. Burgundy had multiple unsolved murders and disappearances at the time. Most were mismanaged, ignored, or discarded. Many suspected that top officials were hiding Burgundy's very high murder rate for a tiny province, something that couldn't be hidden for long. Initial investigations regarding Joanna's death were faulty. The crime scene was forensically disorganized. Joanna's family, who were desperate to know what was happening in the case, were not informed of most of the inquiry's findings. The British inquest into her murder found evidence that French coroners ignored. A second British autopsy stated that her body had many bite marks, which may reveal the offender, as dental bites and jaw forms are distinct and easily matched. The news shocked her parents, who couldn't believe something so obvious could have been missed. Doctors took sperm samples during the autopsy. Sample analysis took 2 years, but a genetic fingerprint was found. Roger and Pauline believed the DNA evidence would lead them to the killer. They were less fortunate since investigators refused to seek voluntary DNA testing from local men and make a media call for witnesses. Another investigation failure and a major letdown for Roger and Pauline. The police's incompetence frustrated her family, so they finally took action. The family posted advertisements offering a reward for the ultimate tip in solving Joanna's death. In vain, they petitioned the British government for help, but their flyers received interesting responses and several people offered information regarding the death of Joanna. Roger and Pauline informed the French authorities of the fresh leads, but for unknown reason, detectives didn't pursue any of the tips. No significant suspects were available for the case or the other 13 unsolved female homicides and disappearances in the city during the past 30 years. Roger and Pauline tried to obtain Joanna's case files to get some outside help, but investigators refused them access to the documents despite their apparent defeat. Among the 13 missing or murdered girls were 7 students from the Auxerre Medical Educational Institute for Disadvantaged Women. These 7 girls were accounted for in December of 2000 when a former school bus driver, Michel Louis, confessed. According to him, 68, he had sex with the 7 students before killing them between 1977 and 1979. He'd been questioned back in the 70s by authorities after the girls went missing due to his sex criminal background. Nevertheless, he was swiftly eliminated as a suspect after just a brief investigation. The girls were declared runaways and the charges were dropped. He continued to drive the female pupils to and from school again. He may have continued random rapes and murders, but he was not suspected. He was arrested over 2 decades later after his daughter found victim relics in his home. He then confessed to burying the girls beside the Yonne River. Only the remains of 2 girls were ever found. He changed his story soon after admitting guilt. He denied the killings and said he was forced to lie. A mysterious network of local and regional men abducted and killed the girls after continuous molestation. As expected, local investigators doubted his tale. One thing was certain, he didn't kill Joanna. He was in prison for sexually assaulting a minor when she was killed. However, French police agent Christian Jambert, 56, undertook a 13-year private investigation that found Louis was linked to many of the missing and murdered women. He was accused of running a sex ring that prostituted, abused, and killed numerous local girls, maybe including Joanna. The authorities first ignored Christian's charges, but a 1984 event persuaded them to investigate a local prostitution network. That January, a 19-year-old confused girl was found wandering the streets of Auxerre. When police arrested and questioned her, she said she was kidnapped and raped in a neighboring basement. The girl's confession led the police to the residence of Claude and Monique Olivier, 2 good friends of Michel Louis. There, another nude woman was found in the cellar, hanging from a ladder by her wrists. For over 15 years, local handicapped girls had been lured to the house, locked up, and given dog food to eat. Then they were raped and tortured. Claude was convicted of kidnapping and condemned to life in 1991. For accessory to the crimes, his wife Monique received 2 years. Claude has long accused politicians, industrialists, and magistrates of involvement in the case, but has refused to name any of them. It's said that a list with more than 50 clients, including French notables who paid to torture and abuse girls, was discovered at the house and handed over to the Marseille courthouse. There, the list mysteriously vanished from a courtroom and was never found. The document disappeared with other things since the court lost nearly 100 murder and missing person case files between 1958 and 1982. Also gone were the court ledger of investigations. It became clear that either someone was hiding the crimes or the courts had a management problem. Christian was pretty certain he knew who was behind Burgundy's murders and missing people cases, and Louis was a leading suspect. Christian kept detailed journals and notes on the cases and evidence. His results were prepared for a new examination in 1997. Unfortunately, he never got to share his hard-earned achievement. He was found dead in his basement in August, just days before the investigations began. He died of a reported single headshot, according to an autopsy. Doctors stated that he had a history of depression, and his mental illness reportedly impacted his suicide. The scandal gained international prominence during the late 1990s. Incompetence and the disappearance of over 100 files, mostly concerning missing women from the courts, shocked people. The event was so terrible that the justice minister ordered internal investigations. The 7 women Louis claimed to have killed were linked to Joanna's murder case, which was re-examined. It took almost a decade to review the minister's inquiry. Investigators instantly suspected Joanna's murder file had been tampered with, since many witness testimonies were missing from the file. Important DNA evidence was lost for nearly a decade before being found again. Many community members believed that the murder cases were ignored and that the files were removed or destroyed because they implicated high-ranking officials. Police re-examined the cases and determined that local magistrates were likely negligent in handling them, which kept criminals from being captured. 4 Burgundy magistrates were accused of negligence in the missing and murdered women cases in March of 2002. One of the accused, Judge Daniel Stelenovic, admitted that there were people who allowed information to be held back. He further claimed that magistrates tampered with proceedings to protect their clients. It was a conspiracy at the very top. Stelenovic was found negligent and was dismissed from his position. In 2005, Olivier was extradited to France and charged with 3 counts of murder after she confessed that she lured 3 young women to her house, knowing that Michel would murder them. Olivier's trial was postponed, as was Michel's, who was deported to France in January of 2006. During her incarceration, Olivier revealed that Michel killed a young woman and dumped her body in a river in Auxerre in 1990. She gave information that led authorities to assume the murder victim was Joanna Parrish. Michel denied having anything to do with the young student's murder. Later, Olivier withdrew her allegations and claimed they were made under duress. The trial of Michel took place in 2008 in France. There, he was found guilty of the murders of Isabelle, Farida, Fabienne, Jean-Marie, Elizabeth, Natasha, Celine, and Mananya. He was sentenced to prison without the possibility of parole. Olivier was sentenced to life with no possibility of parole for 28 years. In February of 2018, Michel admitted to killing 2 additional women in Auxerre, 18-year-old Marie Argel Domez and, indeed, Joanna Parrish. In 2020, Michel also admitted to murdering 9-year-old Estelle Musa. Olivier admitted watching over Musa while Michel was at work. On January 9, 2003, Estelle disappeared on the way back from school. She was seen for the last time in front of a bakery while she was returning home. Her disappearance sparked huge media coverage all over the country. Michel's confession to kidnapping and murdering the schoolgirl revived hopes of locating a body in one of France's most renowned unsolved crimes. Unfortunately, Michel stated that his memory got the better of him and he couldn't remember the exact location where he had buried her body. He later died in 2021 before he could stand trial. In December of 2023, Olivier was charged with complicity in the murders of Domez, Parrish, and Musa and was sentenced to life.